Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Future Palace Run, out June 10th on Rising Empire. This album has 12 tracks, 41 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a German post-hardcore metalcore band. As far as the design goes, before I even got into this record, I was really concerned with how it was going to come together as one. When you listen to the singles, every single is very different from one another, so I was wondering if there was going to be some chaos, some volatility within this album. There is some chaos, there is some volatility, but they were able to control it by creating a uniform platform that stays consistent throughout the entire record. And that is the fact that this is an album that feels very emotionally driven. It's organic in the way that's put together, and it allows the listener to stay invested with the experience of listening to it from the first to the last song. Think about this album the way you would look at a diary. There is one writer of that diary, there is one character. He's just telling you different stories, different emotions, different things that character has gone through. But at the end of the day, it's just one person. This album is Future Palace from start to finish. You're just getting different emotions, different sides of the band musically, vocally, and lyrically from track to track. This is the best way to put together a record that has that sort of diversity at the top, but still some sort of grounding at the bottom. As far as the soundscape goes, the album goes everywhere. Post-hardcore, metalcore, synth pop, pop rock, pop, electronic. I don't think there's one genre that can really define the soundscape on this album, because if you're listening to one song, you feel like the album is a metalcore record, then you listen to another song, it feels more like pop rock, then you listen to another one, it feels more like synth pop. So there's not one genre that really dictates the soundscape or the experience from beginning to end. The album is very fluid and is very dynamic from that perspective, almost a mini roller coaster ride with a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and always keeping the listener moving forward and staying engaged and connected with that same movement. The thing that holds this album together, or that tries to control some of that volatility musically, is definitely the production. The production on this album is on point, and it's consistent. It's consistent from the first all the way to the last song. Regardless of the starting point, regardless of the finish line, regardless of the influences and how the tracks move and the experience that they give you, the production behind each and every single song stays uniform. That sense of control, that sense of balance helps hold this album together. It helps make the diversity that exists within it completely feel controlled and not break the album apart. A really important element for the sound and for what the listener is going to get out of that sound. Now, within the soundscape of this record, I honestly don't feel like there's one element that outshines the other. You can talk about the bass, how groovy it is, and how much it helps define the shapes of the songs and ground some of these tracks. You can talk about the drums, and once again, creating shapes, holding down this record, creating a sense of heaviness and volume and even texture at times. And you can talk about the guitars, how melodic they are, how thick they are. They sound really thick throughout the entire record. They're not driven from a thin perspective. They don't come in very penetrating. They really come in with volume, with substance, and that's an interesting element for an album that sounds this way. So all of these elements are true, but the quality of the sound on this record is because all of them are working well with one another. This record does not depend on one single piece in order to make itself shine. It depends on all of them cooperating perfectly with one another, creating an engaging soundscape, an engaging experience, making the sound on this album feel very fresh. This record feels fresh the first time you listen to it, the 100th time that you listen to it. That speaks volumes to the quality and playability of the album itself. Now, vocally, Maria is phenomenal. If there is one thing that jumps out in terms of holding your attention and makes you feel like at the end of the album, it really was above everything else, that is Maria's vocals. Her voice is outstanding. That emotion that I talked earlier, that investment that you have with the experience of listening to this album, a lot of it comes from her voice, her tone, her delivery, her range. She is the narrator of Run. She is the narrator. She is the writer of this diary, and she keeps your attention glued to it, song in and song out. Incredible vocal performance from start to finish. It feels very natural. It doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel forced. Like I said earlier, it feels organic. It's a very organic sounding record, and her voice adds to that. It has a lot of warmth. It has a lot of emotion, and this makes the album feel even more important, even more impactful across all the different parameters. An album that allows you to be a part of it. This is very important. When I'm listening to this record, I don't feel emotionally detached from it. I don't feel like the record is far away from me and I'm not able to comprehend what it's trying to offer me, what it's trying to give me. This album makes you feel part of it. This album becomes your own journey within it. I love the design, I love the construction, and definitely love the sound and vocals that it has. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Dead Inside. This is the second track on the album. It has that thick guitar sound that you're going to hear a lot of it throughout the entire album, and the bass on this track helps define that thickness. That guitar sounds as thick as it does because the bass is there compensating, adding some texture, adding some substance to that volume to make it feel a lot more robust all around. The vocals come on top of it. They really dominate the experience, they dominate the track and how you're going to move forward in terms of the direction that the song will give you. The sound is bigger and the vocals are a little bit more penetrating. That is the dynamic that this track has, not the guitars that are driving through, but rather the vocals that are doing the driving through. It has a great chorus. Vocally, it feels a little bit more powerful, it feels a little bit more impactful, and then there's an incredible vocal bridge that extends the track, allows you to feel differently about it, resets the experience, and the song finishes as strong as it started. Next, you have Locked, one of the most aggressive songs on the record. It has great vocals, it has great sound, it has this melodic, melancholic approach, and then it moves into an electronic sound, and then it moves into a more heavier sound. And it doesn't just do that movement. You don't see that growth, you don't see that expansion just musically, you see it vocally. This is a very interesting track from that perspective. The way the song starts, the way the song grows, the way the song moves musically, you see the same pattern vocally. So you have two different lanes, two parallel lanes that are moving at the same speed in the same direction, just with different cars in it. This is what gives life to this track because it makes the track feel more layered, it makes the track feel more texture, but at the same time really easy to grasp, really easy to understand. It doesn't ask too much of the listener, it just asks you to come along for the ride. Last but not least, Wounds, a more melodic, melancholic track. It brings a soft approach vocally and musically. At the end of it, you're not going to remember the more brighter spots that this song has, which is in the chorus. The chorus is more explosive, vocally and musically, more melodic, more explosive, but that is just a reset. What you're going to get from this song is that downturn, is that deeply driven, melancholic experience, almost somber at times, really introspective that the track has in the verses. That is what's setting up the emotion, that's setting up your experience as far as the overall song is concerned. That chorus is just kind of reflects what's on the inside into the outside, and it's just needed in order for the track not to feel linear from start to finish, which would make the song a little bit boring, a little bit redundant. This gives the song a little bit more life, even though life is not something that exists a lot within the track itself. This is it. Future Palace Run out June 10th on A Rising Empire. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, you guys.